To grow your business, you not only need a good idea, hard work, and access to capital, you also need people that could guide you in the process and help you to achieve your goals.
This vision, this dream, started with some co-founders that are very notable. They came together and said, we want to do something big for the Latino community. And we also want to help shape a beneficial narrative of Latinos across this country. And keep in mind that Latino entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment in terms of numbers in the whole space of entrepreneurship. And we all know that small business is the heartbeat of America.
This is Mark Madrid. He is the CEO of Latino Business Action Network, an institution affiliated to the Stanford University School of Business, focused on working to make America stronger by empowering Latino entrepreneurs to grow large business through research, education, and networking. Let's talk to Mark and find out ComoLoHizo.
Éxito.
Success.
Hábitos.
Habits.
¿Cómo lo hizo?
How do they make it?
Descubra las costumbres y secretos de los triunfadores.
Discover the habits and the secrets of those who have succeeded.
Mark, what a pleasure to have you here in ComoLoHizo.
I'm excited and energized to be with you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, so let's jump straight to the issue. Tell me, what really is the Latino Business Action Network?
I'm so excited to be blessed and honored to serve as CEO of LBAN, the Latino Business Action Network, and we are a nonprofit organization that collaborates with Stanford University Graduate School of Business to champion what is still a unicorn initiative called the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. And we have just 3 priorities. I'm so glad, my friend, that we don't have 1,000. We just have 3. The first is research, the most comprehensive research through this collaboration in U.S. history on U.S. Latino and Latina entrepreneurship. The second priority is education impact programs at Stanford University Graduate School of Business through a scaling program that I want to tell you all about in the viewership and the audience as well. And our third priority is a national ecosystem development of thriving, scaled U.S. Latino and Latina firms from across the country. Those are the 3 priorities that's why we exist every day, to advance this purpose, which is to strengthen the United States by improving the lives of Latinos.
That's amazing. I mean, that sounds huge. Just to be related to Stanford University, one of the most, successful, famous universities in the world, not only in USA, is something wonderful. But now, before we jump into describing that, just tell me a little bit about you. How did you get to be the CEO of LBAN? That's huge.
Well, it is something that I'm very thankful to God for. But I tell you, this all started, this LBAN movement, this vision, this dream, started with some co-founders that are very notable, one of which is Professor Jerry Porras, who serves as our co-founder and chairman emeritus, and some other very high achievement and great heart-filled, passionate people like Victor Arias and Phil Pompa, Frank Ramirez, Julia Sullivan, Richard Leza. Those were Stanford MBA, in addition to Professor Jerry Porras, who is a professor emeritus for the Stanford Graduate School of Business. They came together and said, we want to do something big for the Latino community. And we also want to help shape a beneficial narrative of Latinos across this country. And so those are the key players that approached then President John Hennessy at Stanford about this big idea, this huge dream. And after the president heard them out, his remarks were, this is the right thing to do, the right time to do it, and Stanford is the place to do it. How I got involved was back in 2015 when I heard about this amazing Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative Education Scaling Program, focus on scaling those entrepreneurs across the country, Latinx, that were over $1 million of annual gross revenues. Scale companies is how we define that. And so at that time, I was leading the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as CEO. And I knew that there was some limited spots for nonprofits that were Latino and Latina that could qualify for the program. So I actually, my friend, was in the second cohort of this amazing program. And I think that's one of the steps that led toward me becoming the leader of the operations of this in 2017.
Interesting. Now, let's throw or build a bridge. I am a Latino entrepreneur, and I want to take a part in this initiative. How do I get it? How do I get involved? How do I qualify? What do I need to take advantage and the help that I need to my business?
That's a great question. Our Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative Education Scaling Program is an immersive 7-week curriculum that's based on an online curriculum from the Stanford Graduate School of Business. But LBAN, we help make it personal as we make it mandatory for the entrepreneurs that are selected to come for a mandatory kickoff weekend at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We call that the GSB. And once the entrepreneurs that are selected go through that weekend, then they go back and run their businesses and their lives, and they come back 7 weeks later to graduate at Stanford. Now, how does one qualify to get into this program? Well, we are focused on scale firms, meaning those Latino and Latina entrepreneurs who have over $1 million of annual gross revenues. And the reason why is that only 3% of our ecosystem of Latinx entrepreneurs earn over $1 million of annual gross revenues. So we feel that's a big problem. We need to reach as many of those 3%ers as possible because our community, our comunidad, is so important to this American economy. Let me give you this figure. If Latino entrepreneurs earned what non-Latino entrepreneurs earn, that difference is $1.47 trillion.
Wow.
And keep in mind that Latino entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment in terms of numbers in the whole space of entrepreneurship. And we all know that small business is a heartbeat of America. So those things considered, we have put the qualification criteria as $1 million of annual gross revenues or having sourced over $500,000 in external sources of funds, meaning anything besides friends, family, and savings.
Okay, so let's go and talk about scaling. Could you help us to understand what that word means? Scaling, o sería escalar en español, something like that.
That's right. So for us, we've defined scaling as crossing the $1 million threshold in terms of annual gross revenues. But what that means to me, frankly, and to a lot of us, is an open heart, open corazón, right? And an open mind to elevation and growth mindset, to have aspirations, to open oneself to some risk potentially, to make possible some reward that comes from that, from accessing capital, which is not the easiest thing to do in the present world that we live in. So when we talk about scale, we're talking about crossing the $1 million threshold in terms of annual gross revenue.
All right. And what about getting access to capital? Either one, can I have $100,000 gross revenue in a year and then get to $500,000 from a bank or something? Is that scaling? If I get that, can I qualify to attend one of those seminars?
That's right. So you can qualify for the program if you've gotten over $500,000, let's say, of loans, or a combination of loans, a land loan, a small business administration loan, VC, venture capital funds, angel funds, lines of credit. Those all qualify in aggregate. And if you surpass $500,000, then you qualify, or you can apply for our program for possible consideration. So that's a great question that you asked.
All right. So let's say that I do qualify and I decided, okay, this is something that I want to pursue? What am I going to learn during the program, the 7 weeks that you mentioned?
You bet. So it's I've never been a part of anything like this. If I may, I want to tell you about the alumni, and then I'll get back to your very important question. But 432 Latino and Latina entrepreneurs have graduated from this Stanford Scaling Program that's put together by LBAN and the Stanford Graduate School of Business. 432 over the last 3 years.
That's awesome.
And we're so proud of this group. Combined, they have annual gross revenues north of $1.6 billion with a B, $1.6 billion. They employ over 45,000, so they're job creators across 30 states and Puerto Rico. And so it's an amazing group. We're so proud of them. And what they've learned in this process is they've learned how to elevate their mindset. How to make sure, for instance, there's a concept called cognitive load, that you are not putting your energy in the wrong places. It takes a look at also broken windows, those factors that may be hindering progress in terms of your environment with your employees, both internally and externally. There's so many lessons here. There's case studies from executives that have run large companies. And of course, on the LBAN side, we're always introducing those who come through the program to capital providers and introducing them to concepts surrounding capital, including staging capital, understanding capital from access to capital to management of capital to ownership of capital. So we feel that all these ingredients serve that CEO, that founder, that principal, the right knowledge base to take their company. If they're over $1 million or 10 or 20 or $30 million, that we want them to have the mindset in some cases to double the size of their company.
Absolutely.
And some of the graduates that have come through here have done exactly that.
That's, I mean, very exciting. Now, while you're talking, I'm thinking about, many guests that we had in ComoLoHizo that qualify straight. They're amazing entrepreneurs, and they go beyond the 1 million threshold that you are talking as revenue. And I want to talk to them about this because I'm very excited because, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I find a direct correlation between studying, preparing yourself, and success. I know that there are many stories of self-made and even drop out from school, different business school people that were or are very successful. But still, those are the unicorns. I think that studying and preparing and reading, discovering and organizing yourself in order to be more efficient, I think it's basic. Do you agree? Or you want to go deeper into this line of thinking?
Hi, Fernando. I couldn't agree more with you. I've always believed from a young age that luck is preparation meeting opportunity. And so I couldn't agree with you more. I think in this day and age, most of us as Latinos and Latinas have been introduced to family-owned businesses from a young age. Like myself, my father owned a welding service. And
where?
My parents in the Texas Panhandle. So my parents grew up picking cotton. They were migrant farm workers in Morton, Texas, in a very desolate community, a farming community. And my father was not going to have anything of that sort. He started drawing on napkins, blueprints, picked up trades where he could. He was very hardworking, and he decided that he wanted to control his own destiny and be his own boss. And Fernando, he became the go-to welder in the Texas Panhandle. He said, if it doesn't smell like mierda, it doesn't smell like money. So he was responsible for all of the feedlots that held the throngs of cattle. There was more cattle in my town than people, and that's why it's known as the cheeseburger capital of the world. So a lot of cattle that are there, he was responsible for all the corrals that held them in that space.
Interesting. Now, in your experience, what's the most important challenge the Latino entrepreneurs are facing today? I
think it's definitely access to capital or the reception of being open, to accessing capital for the growth of the business. We find from the research that comes out of Stanford and the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative that there's very little